right, let's get started. So Title Tuesdays, 1 second, because I need to see, one second. Lock here. 1 second, because I can't see my why is it not giving me? Here it is. All right, let's go. We're gonna just roll with this. So welcome to Title Tuesdays. We are 16 minutes late. Those of you who have joined us before, you know we are sticklers for starting on time, but we are here and we are going to roll and get you to the meat and potatoes of this conversation today. Again, welcome. Here's the mission of Title Tuesdays. Outside of the 16 minutes of complications we just had, the mission is to provide a weekly coaching calls for realtors, discuss the latest trends and need to know information to grow your business. Let me make sure the chat is up because that's what I see. All right, perfect. So here's one of the main impetus for this call. And for you guys that know me, you know that I am an avid learner. And so what I was thinking is with regards to Title Tuesdays, I know that when you encounter an issue that impedes your forward progress, you haven't necessarily reached a dead end, you simply reached the extent of your knowledge, right? And so what I want to always emphasize is that you must learn more to earn more. So oftentimes, if you come to the extent of what you know, you're going to think that you're at the end. You're going to think that this transaction cannot close. There's nothing I can do with this buyer. There's nothing that I can do with this seller. When in fact, that's not necessarily the case. There's likely a resolve. You simply don't know it. And so when we come together each Tuesday, the goal is to give you information so that you can always meet a hurdle with a resolution. So for those who I haven't had an opportunity to meet before, we have to introduce you to Title Xperts. Title Xperts is an attorney-founded and operated title insurance and settlement firm. We close all of Florida. For those who we have worked with before, welcome back into the room. We look forward to seeing you again at the closing table, maybe with the cryptocurrency closing, right? Now, today is a special call. Today, we are joined by a partner professional group with us. It is South Florida Board of Realtors, the South Florida chapter of NAREB. So for some that are on the call each week, can you please host the person laughing? I don't see, actually, I didn't have your sound. Let me do this. Everybody make sure to mute yourself. Can
you mute them? Someone's coughing.
Yeah, they was asking to mute the person coughing.
Yeah, now I can hear you guys. I had your sound down. I get so many emails, the sound was down. So everyone to take a look at your controls and mute yourself, please. All right. So let's continue on. Again, we want to acknowledge and welcome our professional partner, the South Florida Board of Realtors, South Florida chapter of NAREB. For those of you who have never heard of NAREB, I want you to know that NAREB it stands for the National Real Estate Brokers. It is the oldest minority trade organization in the U.S. And it was founded in 1947 by 12, we call them pioneers. One woman, always one good woman, and 11 men during a time when the real estate industry was closed to people of color, right? To operate in the profession as well as those that service the color society was limited. And so members of NAREB were organized. NAREB was organized for this population. And then our local Board of Realtors, South Florida Board of Realtors, was founded just a year later in 1948. And so we want to acknowledge the history, we want to acknowledge the growth, and we also want to acknowledge the sustainability of this organization. We're always looking for diversity. We're always looking to support, and we're also always forever looking to grow home ownership, regardless of race, color, creed, sex, origin, right? And so we celebrate NAREB today. We want to acknowledge the current president of NAREB, Mr. Jeffrey Corleone. Jeffrey is on the call. Jeff, I'm not sure if you are
I am here.
There he is.
Hey,
Hey,
thank you
Jeff.
for collaborating with us. And I know this is going to be a great event. Our members are here. They're asking if the session's being recorded. We're actually getting new members in for your session alone. So thank you so much for that. But South Florida is definitely excited to be collaborating with our partner and sponsor year after year. Ray Cole is definitely committed to our organization, the growth of it, and definitely home ownership. I'm excited about NARAB. I'm excited about our home ownership event that's coming up on the 26th of this month. I hope we're able to discuss it towards the end of it, but it's definitely going to be an impactful event. It's definitely going to be sold out. We had over 100 people about 2 years ago pre-COVID. So we're definitely looking to pack the house as much as we can this year. So guys, stay tuned for that. Ray Cole, back to you.
Oh, thanks, Jeff. We'll definitely want to talk about the homeownership event because, again, at the end of the day, we all got into this industry for this reason, right? We wanted to help people to participate in real estate, either be investment, homeownership, whatever their goal might have been. With that being said, for those who I have not had the opportunity to meet, my name is Ray Cole Jackson, and a little bit about my background. For those who have met me before, humor me. I did attend the University of Florida. Go Gators. Those who are on the call know I always say, what? Don't say go nose. You do your own call and you say yours. I did attend the University of Florida for undergrad. I went on to Santa Clara University School of Law, where I attained my law degree, came back to Miami, Florida, born and raised in Miami, and obtained my LLM in real property development from the University of Miami School of Law. Finally, I am a licensed real estate salesperson in Florida, as well as previously in California while in law school. The reason why I give this background is oftentimes when I always hear when they say when they bring the attorney in the room, the attorney is coming to kill the deal. And that's exactly the complete opposite of my goal and my ambition and my outlook as it relates to these transactions. Again, having been on the forefront, still am in various capacities. We always want to get you to the closing table. So now our discussion today is about getting to the closing table using cryptocurrency. This is all the rave, and this is what we must know in order to stay at the forefront of our profession, right? So let's talk about cryptocurrency. What is cryptocurrency? And we've all heard the term thrown around so many times. Understand that cryptocurrency, and this is a sort of a review. We had a call last week, and technology was apparently not our friend then either, but we're gonna do this again, and always 2 times the fun, right? So for those who were on the call, it's going to be a quick recap, a quiz at the end for those who were on last week. Cryptocurrency, or crypto, it is a virtual or digital currency that can be used to buy goods and services. Real estate is a good. And cryptocurrency is often called a token or a coin. The crypto and cryptocurrency refers to the complicated cryptography that allows for the creation and processing of digital currencies and their transactions across decentralized systems. Decentralized systems. And cryptography, that is the process of writing and solving codes. Cryptography is what converts ordinary plain text into unintelligible text. This is where we get the cryptocurrency from, because it is created using very complex codes. So cryptography stores and transmits data in a particular form so that only those for whom it was intended can read and process it. That's why we call it cryptocurrency. So the idea is for only those who are clearly the owners of cryptocurrency to be able to utilize that coin. So as we were preparing for the talk, I remembered, I said, oh, this is where we get the idea of cryptic message from, right? Like, what is this cryptic message she's trying to send me, right? The cryptic message is, my intent is only you can figure out what I'm trying to say to you. This is so twisted. This is so mixed up that only you can figure out what I'm trying to say to you. So similarly with cryptocurrency, the code is so complex. It is intended to be so complex that only you, the owner and holder of that cryptocurrency, should be able to utilize it for purchase, sale, or transfer. This is the advent of cryptocurrency. So cryptocurrency is exchanged online using technology called blockchain. You probably heard blockchain before. Blockchain was first, we started hearing about it in the real estate industry a couple of years ago because they're talking about how it can be used in the closing process. Victoria, I see you have your hand up. Did you need to ask a question? Drop in the chat if you have a question, Victoria. I see your hand up unless you kind of just hit your control by mistake. Blockchain, you might have heard mentioned a couple years ago as it relates to the closing process. The idea is that blockchain, again, this is secure. The idea is that eventually we'll be able to close real estate transactions using this system because of the idea that they believe that they should be able to track the transfer of real estate on this encrypted or this very technical method. It has not yet reached the closing process. I'll be very honest with you as it relates to title, but it is used in cryptocurrency. So blockchain is a decentralized technology spread across many computers that manages and it records transactions. Remember, they were talking about using it for the recording of deeds and liens and transfers and those types of documents. It hasn't yet done it, but they are using it in cryptocurrency. Decentralization is one of the most important features of digital currency. This is one of the things that makes it different and sets it apart from the currency that we currently use. Outside of it being virtual, right? You can't hold it in your hand. Outside of it using a virtual wallet and all these other things, decentralization is one of the main key factors about this currency. And what is decentralization? Well, first compare it to centralized currency. Centralized currency is what we currently majority of the time use, right? And centralized currency, if you look at this graphic, it is the control, centralization is the control of an activity or organization under a single, central, one authority. So in a centralized currency, one entity does all the work involved in any action. One entity. Centralized currency means that a nation's currency is controlled by a central bank, right? Some background. And then all decisions concerning centralized currency, such as an increase or decrease of supply, does it sound familiar? Are made by the centralized bank. The centralized bank, this should definitely ring a bell. The centralized bank can decide to print new money. Does that sound familiar? The bailout, $1 trillion that are coming into the market right now due to COVID, that's just simply printed money. The government said we need an infusion of cash to help us get over this hump. Let's print money. But what has happened as a result of printing this money? It has decreased the value of the dollar that's sitting right in your very pocket, right? Supply and demand. We talk about that's what real estate is, right? That's why the cost of the current real estate market is so high because there's such low demand. So essentially the value of your money depends on the decision of the central banking system when you're using centralized currency. The government can wake up and say, we're going to print $1 trillion. And now the value of your $1 million has drastically declined. And we know that our centralized currency is what? The US dollar, Benjamins, right? That's our centralized currency right now. Now let's compare centralized currency, a single point of control as it relates to currency, to decentralized currency, which is what cryptocurrency is. Decentralized. We break this up. We break up the control. Decentralization is the dispersion or distribution of functions and powers. We have broken up the power of currency. We've taken it from one source to many. A decentralized currency has no single entity deciding the aspects of the currency. There's no central bank. What we have right now is the people who are founding these currencies that are essentially the controllers. If they decide to create more, to mine more, you guys are probably hearing the term mine more currency, then there will be more currency, more cryptocurrency. And comparing the centralized currency graphic to this, now you see what many hubs and you see many spokes. There's many decision makers as it relates to cryptocurrency in this decentralized market. Continuing on with the background, Bitcoin, that's the one that we all know about. There's many, but Bitcoin was created in 2009. It was the first decentralized cryptocurrency. Bitcoin. Everybody knows about Bitcoin. Everyone has heard about Bitcoin. It was the first decentralized currency created in 2009. Bitcoin has a limited supply. The controllers of Bitcoin have decided that it has a limited supply. Going off memory, I think Nick is on, jump on if I'm incorrect. I think it's at about 20, some number around 20 something is the limited amount of Bitcoin that have been created or will be created in that market. What is it, Nick? I see you came off mute.
21 million.
21 million. I knew it was something with the two. So this limited supply is what drives the value of Bitcoin. Supply and demand. 21 million. It is said that they will never create any more Bitcoin. That's what it said. Versus other Bitcoin, or sorry, not Bitcoin, but other cryptocurrencies have some unlimited supply. So you can obviously assume what's going to be the value of those cryptocurrency. It is definitely an asset. So there are currently numerous forms of cryptocurrency, and these are some of the symbols. I know that Ethereum is not on here, but you got Bitcoin, Dogecoin, and some of these others, I don't even know. There's so many Bitcoins being created. You guys remember when Bitcoin was created, first people laughed and they were like, what is that? And it was like a half of a point, a percentage, a penny to purchase. And as we'll see further in our discussion, where the value of Bitcoin has gone from 2009 to now. The last thing as far as background to know as it relates to our discussion today, is so much more to know, but for the purpose of our discussion, cryptocurrency is stored in an encrypted wallet. There's an encrypted wallet, and it can be bought, held, sold, or traded via peer-to-peer or exchange services. You have Coinbase, you have Robinhood, and again, I know there's all these different discussions about what you should purchase, the platforms that you should purchase cryptocurrency on, and those that you should not because of the values, etc. Again, don't hold myself out to be an expert on cryptocurrency. What you need to know is about the closings that are being conducted, the real estate purchases that are being transacted right now today using cryptocurrency. So where are we now as it relates to cryptocurrency in the real estate market? We are right in there. I grabbed this from Claudiane. I think Claudiane is actually on the call. Right now, guys, it's happening. It is not going to, it is not maybe, it is not when we, it is we are in a market right now where buyers and sellers are agreeing to accept and make payment with cryptocurrency. It's here. And Claudiane, she had this on her story on Instagram where some MLSs now have it as an option as a term of purchase when you upload your listing. You know for sure that our contract currently does not have it. When I teach the contract class, I got that question before. You know that the section, 8 of the contract talks about, said what financing method, cash, finance, assumption, or seller financing. Someone said, where do I put cryptocurrency? I said in the additional terms section because we don't have it right now. So these are some of the things that are going to have to be updated as cryptocurrency is coming into the market as an acceptable form of payment for the purchase and sale of real estate. Just this month, earlier this month, June 7th or so, a luxury $22.5 million penthouse was sold in the largest crypto real estate purchase to date in Miami. $22.5 million penthouse. That's the largest to date. This just happened just this month, like 2 weeks ago, guys. The transaction closed just weeks after the developer announced that it would accept digital assets as payments. Someone just actually just said, isn't an asset. That's how they describe it, digital assets. And they specifically said, we will accept digital assets as payment. Just a little bit of details about the transaction. It's a 5,067 square foot unit. It comprised the entire 9th floor and offers 360-degree views of Miami's ocean shoreline and cityscape. I mean, we are still in the business, right? So I think you probably want to know what your comps are if you're in that market. Here's a couple photos of the project. So the purchase encompassed the entire 9th floor of the building. I think it was called Arcta. Couple photos, pretty nice, right? 22.5 million. This just closed right in, depending upon where you're located at, right in our backyard. Right in our backyard, guys. We are making history in South Florida with cryptocurrency. So here's what you need to know today as it relates to cryptocurrency transactions. Here are the considerations. Here's what you need to be able to discuss and communicate with your clients when you have a conversation about cryptocurrency. And as a matter of fact, I think about Jeff texted me one day. He said, you know, I got an offer. Someone said, will they accept cryptocurrency? Because it's going. This is going on. So here are the considerations when you have a client that says, well, I'm considering accepting Bitcoin for the purchase of my property. That's a good question. Ashley, you want to teach? Do they know what asset they use to purchase? No, they did not disclose it. I actually have that in one of the slides. They did not disclose which currency that they accepted. So, and that's actually that's the next slide. So the buyer and seller must agree on the type of cryptocurrency that will be accepted. They have to. Because what if I have Dogecoin, I don't want to hear about it. I just bought it on a whim because Bitcoin was like $60,000 at the time. But what if I say, well, I have Dogecoin in my wallet, or Dodge, or Doge, or however it's supposed to be pronounced it. And so that's what I will accept. And someone say, Raycole, are you crazy? Bitcoin is all the wave right now. Like, it's 69,000. It has worked. Well, that's what I will accept. I want Dogecoin, though. That's what I will take. And so at the end of the day, the buyer and the seller, they have to agree on the type of cryptocurrency that will be used in the transaction. In this particular transaction, like I mentioned to Ashley, the type of cryptocurrency that was used was not disclosed. And the next question that was asked, what happens if the currency drops in value? It is absolutely a gamble. At the time, the price of one Bitcoin was $36,500. So at that price of 22.5 million, I think we were at, that will be worth 616 Bitcoin. See, these are the consideration, guys. But here's the deal. To your question, Sylvia, the volatility of the currency is something to consider. So if you're mid-transaction, your buyer has to know that they have to have your seller has to know, and your buyer has to know that they better have enough to cover in the event the value of the currency drops. At the time, again, this was at 30, what did we say it was at the time? It was 36.5. This was, as of this morning, I believe, 39,995.50. So it's actually gone up since about 2 weeks ago. And this is part of the reason why people are accepting. This is a nice example. This is part of the reason why, when things go well, why accepting cryptocurrency is a good idea and it's considered an investment, because just that quickly, the seller now has an additional $3,400 on each coin, right? Because it went from 36.5 to 39.95. This is the consideration when you're accepting cryptocurrency. You, at that point, you are all in. You believe that is the currency of the future. You believe that it will increase in value. You believe that, notwithstanding the fact that I'm selling my property in a high market, I'm actually going to end up making even more because the value of the cryptocurrency is going to increase in the future. However, compare that to the all-time high their cryptocurrency was at. It says 64. I thought it was actually at 69 at one point, but 64 at one point. It was at $64,804.72 in April of this year. So this is just to highlight the volatility of this currency. It goes up and down, and it can go up and down overnight, right? Ashley's question, so if it drops and you sell, you will end up getting a considerable more amount when you return. Yes, exactly, exactly. If it drops, let's say I'm at, as in this scenario, there was at 30, their cryptocurrency, their whatever currency they use. Again, we don't know what they use in this transaction, but for the purpose of the discussion, if it had been Bitcoin, Bitcoin was worth 36.5 at the time, which would have put it at 616 Bitcoin. If their Bitcoin was worth 39.95 or 64,804, that's less Bitcoin that they would have paid out for that transaction. These are the considerations. It's highly volatile. It's highly volatile. Additionally, there is a risk of loss or hacking. It's funny. It's an oxymoron. Although it's very encrypted, your wallet can be hacked. The wallet can be hacked, and so either your buyer or your seller's wallet can be hacked, and they will lose their entire wallet of cryptocurrency. You can also lose it, apparently, if you lose your credentials to your account. This is not like Bank of America where you say reset my password. Apparently, like you lose the credentials to your wallet. Exactly. You will lose your entire Bitcoin. I'm saying Bitcoin now, your cryptocurrency holding. So these are some things that need to be worked out, before you start, even as an individual, right? If you're thinking and investing in cryptocurrency. Here's the other considerations as it relates to the closing. Understand that not all costs and fees not all costs and fees can be paid in cryptocurrency. Can't. Here's why. The seller's closing costs must be paid in cash generally, because those are what? Third-party costs. So the third party has to be willing to accept that same currency for payment of their costs or fees. And so I included here from our contract, we see what are some of the representative or example costs that are associated with closing. You have your doc stamps on the deed. The recorder's office is not accepting Bitcoin, last I heard, right? They're not accepting Ethereum. They're not accepting Dogecoin, Sushi, or any of those other ones, right? So that amount will have to be calculated and paid in cash, right? So these are some examples, and we're going to go through a couple of them. And just again, we're all excited, but here are some practical considerations about these closings. The settlement fee. Title Xperts does accept cryptocurrency. We accept Bitcoin, Dogecoin. However, every title agency may not accept your settlement fee in cryptocurrency. So that will have to be paid in what? Cash. The title insurance policy fee, our underwriter. You guys understand that as a title company, what are we doing? We are brokering property insurance. And so the vendor that provides the property insurance has said, hey, we need our premium in cash. We're not accepting cryptocurrency right now. So when we collect that closing, we have to require that the buyer convert their currency to cash for closing, because that is what has to be remitted to the underwriter for the policy, right? Earnest money deposit. Our guidance is the earnest money deposit needs to be in cash. Now you can later convert and flip the entire whatever balance may be to cryptocurrency, but for the purposes of binding that contract, it's a suggestion that be in cash because of what we just talked about. Let's say the earnest money deposit is $60,000. You have 1 Bitcoin deposited as the earnest money deposit, and then overnight it drops to $36,000. What has happened to your earnest money deposit? You have less of an earnest money deposit. And we all know the purpose of an earnest money deposit, right? That is to have some skin in the game. That is, in the event of a default, we have some recourse. We have money to go after. How would you feel going after 30 instead of 60? That would be a problem. Likewise, what about the fact that if there is a default, the seller is successful, and keeping the earnest money deposit, don't the realtors get a portion of that? How would you feel if your portion is now prorated from 30,000 instead of 60? So the earnest money deposit likely should be in cash. Now they can agree otherwise, but I would suggest consideration, seller's rep, that their earnest money deposit be in cash. What is the next consideration? Your commission. Now, unless you're a broker, you can't make the decision to accept your commission in cryptocurrency, right? And then even as a broker, you're not probably not there yet, right? So there's a lot of considerations that have to be taken place as it relates to realtors' commissions being paid in cryptocurrency. So here's another fee that's likely not going to be made in cryptocurrency. I'm sure you probably want to see your commissions in cash. Loan payoffs. If there's a payoff, understand we're still closing. If there's a lien on the property, a mortgage lien that needs to be paid off, Bank of America, PennyMac, Chase, Wells Fargo, they're not accepting cryptocurrency from us for the payoff of their loans. That's still going to have to be in cash. And so that amount needs to come over in cash. Other considerations, lien payoffs. What if there's a lien with the city? Again, right now, City of West Palm Beach, Wellington, they are not accepting cryptocurrency to pay off liens. Code enforcement, whatever the case may be, they're not accepting cryptocurrency to pay off liens. So here's another cash transaction that's going to take place at closing. Recording costs and taxes. We talked about that just a little while ago. Remember the doc stamps? They're not accepting cryptocurrency. That needs to be cash in the account. So here's what we see. If you make all those considerations, realtor commission, earnest money deposit, recording costs, taxes on the deed, lien payoff. Did we say earnest money deposit yet? Lien payoff. If all of those still need to come and pass through in cash, potentially the settlement fee, the title insurance policy, what does that leave us with? Essentially, only the net proceeds to the seller will be paid via cryptocurrency, right? Because the seller has decided that they will accept cryptocurrency. No other third party has decided that they would accept it. So we would end up doing the math to figure out, after all of these closing costs have been paid in cash, what is the now balance to be transferred to the seller in cryptocurrency, whatever that currency might be that they agree to. Ethereum, Bitcoin, remember we talked about Dogecoin, Sushi, all those different currencies. Then the math will be done to figure how to transfer that to the seller. The other thing that you should know is that there will be so many disclosures and disclaimers executed by the parties you won't even believe. Like, you guys have been to closings with buyers before, and this is 150 pages. There are going to be so many disclosures, and you should know. And we talked about, you know, the volatility. You need to know, if you agree to this, like, everyone's going to say, listen, this is your decision to accept cryptocurrency. If you lose this cryptocurrency, if the value decreases, if it ends up being crap and not really cryptocurrency, some type of, you know, funny, fraudulent crypto, where we have no control of that. This is your thing. So you're going to expect that there are going to be a lot of disclosures and a lot of disclaimers executed by the party. We already have a disclosure and a disclaimer from our underwriter should we have to conduct one of these closings. So you're going to see it coming from the brokers. You're probably going to see it coming from the buyer's agent, sellers, everyone's going to make sure that they've documented and made everyone fully aware of the risk of utilizing cryptocurrency. And then finally, we know that the rules and requirements are still developing. We know that. On a call last week, we had Jonathan, I'm not sure if he's on today, some of our board members, some of our national and state board members, realtors, are getting out in the forefront and making sure that our forms we're starting to have the conversations about the forms being updated Because one of the other things that we identified and prepared for this call, those of you who are in Miami, the mayor, I believe it is, has already decided that he wants Miami to be the next Silicon Valley. So expect much, much more, many more pushes and requests and suggestions. They just had the Bitcoin conference down there 2 weeks ago. And so Miami is absolutely going to be on the forefront of these cryptocurrency transactions. We just logged the highest value or highest price transaction just a couple weeks ago. And we definitely look forward to seeing more and more of those transactions come from Miami, and obviously push its way up and out throughout the nation. Any questions? That's a good question, Crystal. As of right now, it transfers directly. You can agree to transfer directly to the seller. There's also the same way we have third-party intermediaries for 1031 exchange. There are companies right now that will act as an intermediary to transfer the cryptocurrency from the buyer to the seller. Right now, our office does not facilitate that. You would have to use a third party. I think the name is Solid Block is one of the ones that we've actually Solid Block did this transaction, the one that we're talking about today. I think it's called Solid Block, something like that. I'll tell you what it is. But that's a very good question. Any other questions? Any other questions? Any other questions? So notwithstanding starting about 15 minutes late, we got in. How is the deed read? The deed doesn't, that's a good question. The deed doesn't change. It's funny you guys asked that, because if you notice, now you look at this again, when you look at the consideration generally always says $10. It says for good and valuable consideration, $10. Obviously, no one sold their property for $10. But if you look close at the deed, it always says that. It never, generally, I'll say never, 99.9% of the time, the deed never has the actual purchase price of the property. It's not going to change how the deed reads. Does this make remote closings easy? It doesn't necessarily make remote closings easy. Remote closings are a different platform. It's funny that you asked that, because that's actually going to be our next conversation on remote online notary closings. It could potentially, for example, in this particular transaction, assuming that they did not have any liens to pay off or a bunch of third-party fees, it will make the process, the transfer of money, quicker. But it doesn't make remote closings any easier. But those are two very good questions. I like the question about the deed. Any other questions? Don't be shy. I know some people are like, well, what? How? Oh, you're welcome, Tamika. Will closings be faster? Here's the one thing that's definitely faster: no financing. So you're looking, this is like a cash transaction as far as the timing is related. That's a good question, Ashley. As it relates to timing, you can look at this as a cash transaction, because if it was financing, you have to go through underwriting, et cetera, et cetera. Right. But that's one way that makes it kind of. Will you guys use smart contracts with the Ethereum platform to trader properties? Alex, you want to come off mute or retype that question really quickly?
Oh, sorry. I meant to say transfer properties. Will you guys be using smart contracts to transfer deed in the future?
Potentially. Right now, we do not. Here's one thing, and this is why I said the rules are, requirements are still developing. Anything that we do, our underwriter has to approve it, right? And so even with this cryptocurrency closing, that was a conversation that had to be had with our underwriter. How do we facilitate that? And that's where we're taught about, here's some affidavits, here are some things that you must accept, that you have to have cash to pay for. Here's some items that like we want them. This is them talking to us. We want our policy in cash. You do what you want to do with your settlement fee. But with these types of to make sure that they're compliant, we always have to stay in communication with our underwriter. So as of right now, that's not anything that we're doing right now. But hey, anything is possible. That's why we're having this conversation right now about cryptocurrency closings.
I have another question.
Yeah.
So I know right now it's only Dogecoin, and we'll talk about Doge at another time. Anyways, Dogecoin and Bitcoin as far as tenure for payment. Do you think eventually they're going to open it up to different forms? So say for example, like Stellar or Ripple.
Yeah, it's not just
Just be-
Dogecoin. We only
Oh.
discussed Dogecoin today, and we only discussed Bitcoin. Dogecoin because I'm familiar, that's what I have. Bitcoin because it's the most popular, and that was the first. But
Mm,
again, the seller and the buyer can agree to accept whatever currency they would like.
mm.
It's totally up to them. It's not limited to just Dogecoin and Bitcoin. Oh, thanks, Stevie. You're welcome. Thanks so much for joining us. Any other questions, comments?
I have one. Once the seller receives the money in cryptocurrency and then he wants to transfer it to fiat money, that's a taxable event for the
He
seller.
wants to transfer it to what kind of money you said?
The fiat money to cash money.
Yes, it's a taxable event when he sells the property.
So does he get taxed double if he's selling the property, he's receiving cryptocurrency, but now he wants to change it to cash? Does he
No.
get taxed double or just one time?
No, for our purposes, I can tell you for our purposes, the sale of real estate is what we're concerned with. So we report when he sells the real estate. I would think that, I don't know that he's
I can
necessarily.
comment.
Yeah.
The IRS is just getting on board with being able to regulate and monitor the cryptocurrency because there's so many transactions and trading that are being done. It's not a regulated industry as of yet. And the idea with the buyer and seller each have to have their own platform. And when they convert it is up to them. They can convert it to cash right away, or they can convert it to cash 6 months, a year, 6 years down the road. So you really can't say the IRS is going to start, taxing the transaction because the transaction is just in a different form of currency. It's as if you bought it in Argentine currency or French francs, or the euro, which it is now. So you really aren't able to tax a transaction. You tax when you convert your cryptocurrency if there's a profit.
Right,
Yeah,
exactly.
And,
So
and remember, each party is going to have an exchange. So everyone's going to have their own exchange that basically is going to be, regulated, in their own country, because this can happen in different currencies. People can convert it to euros, they can convert it to dollars. Everyone's going to have their own platform. And I think that's something Ray Cole touched on. The security of cryptocurrency is going to basically be controlled by what platform they're on, whether it's, Coinbase, which everyone knows about, Binance, Exodus. There's probably about 300 different platforms that you can trade cryptocurrency on. So each party is going to transfer or the intermediary is going to transfer to that person's platform. So that's how the IRS or whatever country they're in is going to track what they do with the money after, if they even do anything. It can just sit like an investment. It's like real estate. You're not taxed on it till you sell it. So the cryptocurrency isn't taxed on until you sell it. So the title company wouldn't be regulated to track what people are doing 6 months, a year down the road, because they've gotten their money, or as such now a currency. So they do whatever they want with it. And the important thing is the security, which everyone's going to be concerned with, is what platform they have it on. But once the money's transferred, they're responsible. A lot of people talk about wallets where they have their own digital wallet. Some people store it with keys on their computer, but most people are now going to platforms like Bitcoin or Binance or Bitrax or FTX. A lot of these platforms have popping up or have been in place, and people are selecting the ones they want to use because of the speed with which they can do the transaction. I mean, you can transfer your cryptocurrency in seconds, as opposed to having to do wire transfers. I mean, the money shows up immediately.
Yeah.
So you don't.
Alex, does that make sense?
Rick will continue on that. On foreign transfers of money are very difficult, while transfer of crypto is very easy for anyone anywhere in the world. If they want to leave a deposit in crypto, very easy, and it can be transferred immediately, to cash.
So as you guys can see, Nick really invests in cryptocurrency and is all about this. Alex, I hope that answered your question. So just to recap again, the sale of the real estate is what, as it relates to the title company, is our responsibility to report to the IRS. Once the seller receives it, has the cryptocurrency, and he converts it, that's out of our hands. We don't go that far with it.
Yeah, any transfer has got to be reported to the IRS above 10,000. So that's something that was started last year, and they added it to the IRS 1040 form in 2020. So IRS is absolutely looking into crypto in a major way as of last year.
And the other thing too with crypto as well, like if you're going to do transfers and things of that sort, kind of the same way with stocks, you'll get charged capital gains, specifically if you convert it to another crypto. But if you hold it for at least a year, depending on your filing status and etc., however much you're trying to take out, your liability ends up being less as far as what you have to pay for taxes. But yeah, that $10,000 limit they just implemented. So that's just some things for people to take into consideration as well if they're looking to like withdraw a large amount of money or funds at a time.
And just to recap what they're saying, Ashley and Alex, just if anyone's kind of trying to make sense, Ashley and Alex are talking about holding cryptocurrency, converting it to cash, which is different from using it to purchase real estate, right? They're talking about the gain that you have on cryptocurrency as an asset, and that gets into taxes and such, which is different. That's completely different. Again, the title company is not responsible for that transaction, for lack of a better term. The title company is responsible for reporting the sale of the real estate via which they acquired whatever the cryptocurrency is. All right. Any other questions? If
I have
not,
another question. I have another one.
Go ahead.
Will title companies and mortgage brokers be at risk if cryptocurrency takes over in regards to smart contracts and me having to do a transaction through the blockchain and not having to meet a lender or a title company to do these transactions in the future?
Nah, I don't think so. Only because, well, they're not at risk right away, is what I'll say. There's a lot, going on down the line, but immediately, I would say they're not at risk. Not immediately. There's a lot of things that need to be done to make this a widespread transaction type. Does that make sense? I akin it to remote. Someone asked about remote online notary, right? It was like, oh, we have online notarization. Maybe, right? You still have 150 pages that the buyer may still have to wet sign, although there may be, there's a couple that the seller can sign. And so there are some transitions and some pivots and some tools and some technology that is on the horizon. But how soon is it gonna affect us? Honestly, I don't know. I really just don't know. I mean, Ron has been around the electronic note. See, it's been years. It has been, gosh, I feel like we've been talking about this for like maybe 10 years. It's been a while. We've been talking about it. But, things can accelerate. We've seen a lot of things accelerate in the past few years. But things can definitely, look at COVID. They talked about, the vaccine for COVID. They've never done a vaccine so quickly. So things accelerate as needed. So that's a good question, Alex. How quickly they're going to put the protocol in place to have that be, equally as frequent as the cash closings? I don't know.
I mean, I've been following this since 2015, and I personally invest in cryptocurrencies. And from 2015 to 2001, 2017 to 2001, it speed up very quickly. So the thing is, people aren't really talking about this, and I thank you guys for stepping up and doing this talk about cryptocurrency, because if we don't adapt with the world, you get left behind.
Oh yeah.
So a lot of people that see cryptocurrency as a threat or as a scam might be seeing hard times in the future because the way it's moving so quickly. Already El Salvador accepted Bitcoin as a currency. So if they're getting on, a lot of people are going to start getting on. Africa is starting to get on. So that's why I ask if in the future will this threaten the real estate community?
Alex, what I think I'm gonna see honestly is that you're gonna see adoption with crypto in smaller countries before it gets to the US. The US is very stuck right now when it comes to regulation. So like I invest in crypto as well. So one, I want to thank you guys for having this because it's nice to see companies that are actually innovating with the times because like I said, I think a lot of people still think crypto is a scam, don't exactly understand it, don't really think that it's going to be around for a while, but the last year has accelerated stuff immensely, and a lot of these companies are just not talking about it, but there's a lot of works that are going on behind the scenes. However, you're going to see a lot of mass adoption and incorporation as far as crypto, smart contracts, and usability for like cashless societies in smaller countries before I think we get anything set in stone in the US. But they are working on a lot of stuff within the US. I was actually surprised at the rate that things have kind of been shifting here. But yeah, and it's a matter of if you're not willing to adapt with the times, yeah, you can get left behind. And especially being in real estate, I think it's extremely important because this is just going to be another tool that we will have to service other clients for other means of basically tenure to purchase property.
Yeah. Yeah, it's coming. Again, like I said, it's just a matter of how soon. And like we saw in over the last year and a half with COVID, where there's a will, there's a way. And so if it needs to be done, it'll get done. So with that being said, listen, I don't want to keep you guys too long. It seems like we will definitely be having this conversation again as we get more development on the topic. Jeff, are you still available really quickly to give a quick invite to the Homebuyer Workshop?
Yes, definitely. So June 26th, we are opening the doors at 8 a.m. for registration, coffee. It is going to be at the Stadium Hotel, which is on University and Miami Gardens Drive, which is 199th, I believe. Rick, you have the address.
183rd.
Or is it 207th Street and
183rd.
University. So it's a home buyer seminar. We're going to have lenders in the house. We're going to be doing on-site analyzations of credit reports so that if your people need to fix their credit, we're definitely going to do that. We're going to have lenders on site that are going to be providing pre-approvals, not pre-qualifications, but pre-approvals. So definitely alert your buyers. If you have sellers that are thinking about selling and they need to buy, they should definitely be at this event as well. We are going to have tons of big banks. When you talk about Bank of America, Chase, we're also going to have our small lenders as well who definitely get the deals done. So I'm definitely excited about it. We are going to have a pre-game call. I'm calling it our pre-game call to let everyone know about the event so that you can get all your questions answered. You can know what to look for. So stay tuned for that.
All right. Well, listen, with that being said, we are so excited about the homebuyer event coming up on the 26th. We hope to see you all there. I said, listen, invite your buyers, bring your buyers. We always do homebuyer workshops. What better homebuyer workshop than that? Everyone is on site, in place. Join them, have them sit at the table with you. There will be food served, games, photos. We're going to make this a whole event. We're coming out of COVID. We're coming into home ownership. And so again, I want to thank you guys for joining us for such a healthy conversation. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out. This will be recorded. The 15 minutes of technical difficulty will be cut out, but you guys will get the meat and potatoes of it. Outside of that, Sylvia, thank you. Outside of that, we will see you guys at our next Title Tuesday. I want to say that it will actually not be next week, but the week after, because we will be in class ourselves next Tuesday. So you guys put a pin in it. We'll see you guys not next week, but the following Tuesday, same place, same time, 12 o'clock on the dot, mic working, cameras working, and we will see you then. All right. Again, when you guys are also going to get I guess like a little brief questionnaire after the call with the recording. If there's any topics that you like to hear about, Alex, Ashley, come on. If you guys are seeing stuff and you're like, I wish someone would tell me and have a conversation about this, just shoot it over to us either in that survey, or just send me an email right here. You see my email address on the screen. All right, Renee, Jacqueline, Paris, you guys, Roland, thank you guys so much. It's always a pleasure to see you guys every Tuesday. All right, you guys go get some business, and we'll see you at the closing table. Bye.